evening. Wonderful. It's so wonderful for all of us to be together, those of us here in this room, and those who are online today. Let's breathe together, breathing in the peace of God, the light of love. I bring greetings here from the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ, where Cinda and I were so glad to represent you. I thought I might be really exhausted today after 2 full days of meetings, but maybe the exhaustion will come this afternoon, because right now I'm feeling really invigorated from the weekend, being with colleagues, worshiping together. It was a really wonderful time, and so life-giving to be able to experience that with Cinda. And I'll write up an overview of the meeting, and I'll put that in this week's messenger so that you can hear more about what resolutions were discussed. And there's also an email that went out that has a link to the worship services that are available. So if you didn't get that email, we'll have it again in this week's messenger. There were 3 worship services that are available to watch. And one of them was preached by our general minister and president. So that'll be a great listening. I know Julia Chase listened to the sermons. Yeah, great. We acknowledge that we are on the unceded traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish tribe, who are still here. We boldly proclaim that this is a place of radical welcome and inclusion, and pray that we would continue to find ways to put action to our seeking of justice. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, I pray that you would find grace here at Alki UCC today, that here your feet will touch some sacred ground.
Good morning. I'm Keith, and this is my grandson, Day. It's our privilege to lead you in worship this morning, now by the reading of 2 Kings 5, 1 through 14. And before I read it, a couple of notes. This is in a context of a couple of chapters, chapter 4 and 5, which are stories of miracles, wonderful miracles. And in chapter 4, there are 3 miracles about how food is healed to bring healing to people. And we do a lot with food here, right? So you got to read 1 Kings chapter 4. And the other note is that this story talks about the king of Aram. And Aram is present-day Syria. So you can make that transposition geographically. 2 Kings 5, 1 through 14, and this is the word of God to the church in every age. Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Aram, was a great man and in high favor with his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Aram. The man, though a mighty warrior, suffered from a skin disease. Now the Arameans, on one of their raids, had taken a young girl captive from the land of Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "If only my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his skin disease." So Naaman went in and told his Lord just what the girl from the land of Israel had said. And the king of Aram said, "Go then, and I will send along a letter to the king of Israel."
He went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of garments. He brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, "When this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you my servant Naaman, that you may cure him of his skin disease." When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, "Am I God to give life or death? That this man sends word to me to cure a man of his skin disease? Just look and see how he is trying to pick a quarrel with me."
But when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent a message to the king. "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come to me, that he may learn that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and chariots and halted at the entrance of Elisha's house. Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, "Go, wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean."
But Naaman became angry and went away, saying, "I thought that for me he would surely come out and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, and would wave his hand over the spot and cure the skin disease. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" He turned and went away in a rage.
But his servants approached and said to him, "Father, if the prophet had commanded you to do something difficult, would you not have done it? How much more when all he said to you was, 'Wash and be clean'?" So he went down and immersed himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God. His flesh was restored like the flesh of a young boy, and he was clean. This is the word of God.
Naaman almost had it all. He was a warrior, a commander of the Syrian army in the king's inner circle. He had power, lavish wealth, and great success. He almost had it all, but he had the skin disease that threatened to take away his popularity, his high status, and all comfort. In his desperation, he took the advice of someone on the lowest rung of society. His wife's Israelite servant girl, who remains nameless in the story. She says, "If only my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy." So Naaman set out for Israel the way a commander did, with silver, gold, with 10 sets of garments. He brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, "When this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you my servant Naaman, that you may cure him of his leprosy." And when the king of Israel heard the letter, he tore his clothes and said, "Am I God, to give death or life, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his leprosy?" He wondered if that Syrian king was testing him, if he was looking to pick a fight, if the man was not able to be healed. But when the prophet Elisha heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent a message to the king. "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come and be healed." When I imagine Naaman riding up to Elisha's home, I picture the Disney movie Aladdin. Anybody seen it? If not the movie, maybe a stage production. All right, a few of us have, maybe years ago. Aladdin is dressed as a prince in disguise, enters Jasmine's castle on an elephant with much fanfare. In the movie version, Robin Williams, his voice is the genie, singing of Prince Ali's immense wealth and prestige. The town was electric with excitement at the display, and Aladdin thought, "I got this in the bag. I've won over Princess Jasmine." But Jasmine just shrugs her shoulders, doesn't even come out to see him, misses the whole display. She says, "He's just a pompous prince like all the rest. The day that Naaman entered Samaria, the whole town must have run out of their homes to see the sight. Horses, chariots, servants, packages overflowing with gifts would have been streaming onto the streets. Yet the object of all of that fanfare, the prophet Elisha, didn't even come out to greet him. Naaman was the commander of the Syrian army. He was accustomed to a much different reception. He assumed that the prophet would, of course, come out and be amazed that the commander of the Syrian army would grace him with his presence. He wanted his healing to be an incredible sight for all to see. He wanted the drama. That wasn't the way that Elisha operated. He didn't have the need to show off in his healing of Naaman. His instructions were simple, understated. Elisha sent a messenger to Naaman saying, "Go, wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean." No, that was not the plan. That was not how I had it all figured out, thought Naaman. It doesn't even make sense. Why would washing in the muddy Jordan do anything to heal him when there were much cleaner rivers right by his home? Forget it. First, the prophet doesn't come out to see me. Then he suggests I get clean by wading in disgusting water. What a waste of my precious time. I'm heading home. It was his servants who changed his mind. Father, if the prophet had commanded you to do something difficult, would you not have done it? How much more when all he said to you was, wash and be clean? There's a reversal of power in this story, as God likes to do. The 2 kings are in the background. The army commander and the prophet are at the forefront with completely different understandings of what it means to be a leader. Knitting the whole story together are servants. They are the bearers of wisdom in the story. The servant girl imagined that the healing was possible and risked saying it out loud. She was the catalyst for change. When Naaman was beginning to turn back towards home, it was his servants who brought him back to himself and made the healing possible. Healing did not come in the way Naaman expected. He wanted something dramatic, astounding, jaw-dropping. But healing was offered in the mundane, in the ordinary, in vulnerability. Now, that doesn't mean it was comfortable. Think about what he had to do with everyone watching. Remove his armor piece by piece. Uncovering his vulnerability, his humanity, exposing his broken skin. And then wading right into that dirty water, immersing himself, allowing that dirt and debris to lodge itself into his hair, feeling mysterious squishiness beneath his feet, getting all the way under, and then emerging, coming all the way out, water plugging his ears, running from his nose, water dripping unceremoniously off his arms and his legs, then going right back, and doing it all again 6 more times. The number 7 is biblical, the number for wholeness. Naaman needed the kind of healing that brought wholeness because it wasn't just about feeling better. It was about being restored. Restored to himself, restored to his community, restored to God. Healing is not always what we expect. It usually isn't. It often comes slowly and doesn't happen once and for all. For Naaman, it took 7 times. Coming to wholeness is a process, and it's not complete in this lifetime. Healing happens in the mundane, in the ordinary. Healing comes through everyday things like bread and a cup, plain old water, a listening ear, the embrace of a friend, a good story, a walk outdoors, a decent night of sleep, gratitude for a new day, the noticing of grace. How might we imagine together living more fully into being a place, a people of healing? Elisha didn't come out to greet Naaman when he arrived with all that fanfare because it wasn't about Elisha. It wasn't even about Naaman. It was about the love and power of a God who heals through ordinary things, no drama required. Pretty soon during the quiet meditation, I invite you to write on your sticky notes. Everybody should have gotten one in the bulletin. We've got some pencils scattered throughout. You might need to do some sharing of pencils. And those of you who are listening on Zoom, you can have a virtual sticky note of writing in the chats. I'd like you to respond to the question, how can we be a people of healing? And if you find yourself thinking, oh, I should come up with something brilliant for this, let that go. Breathe it right out. It's not about drama. It's not about amazing. It's about ordinary. That's where the sacred shows up. Listen to your quiet voice within and just write down what comes to mind, even if it doesn't really make sense to you. And when you walk out today, there's going to be a poster in the back for you to stick your sticky note on. And if you're on Zoom, we'll write it on there for you. And if you think of more things, you can also write right onto that paper afterwards. And then after that time of quiet meditation, I invite you to stay seated for that song that follows. We usually stand and sing there, but I'm just going to have us stay seated and keep that reflective spirit going. Allow that call to healing, maybe to be a healer, really settle in your body. How can we be a people of healing? When we get really quiet, when all is laid bare, God calls us back to the simplicity of faith, back to love and being loved. Here is where healing begins.